Arguably the biggest draw of the Persona franchise is the day-to-day routine in which you hang out with friends and choose to spend your time after school on a variety of everyday activities. These games are about learning to use your supernatural powers as much as they are about trying to lead a normal high school life. Across both Persona 4 and 5, this day-to-day gameplay loop has resonated with me on a deeply personal level, despite or maybe exactly because I am long past my high school years. Persona's gameplay encapsulates one of my biggest personal struggles in life, and that is what I want to explore in this video. Let's do a quick breakdown on how Persona's routine works. Every day my character wakes up in the morning, goes to school over the course of the day, and then he gets 2 free time slots, one for the afternoon and one for the evening. Each time slot can be filled with a variety of activities, all of them giving some form of benefit. I can hang out with friends and acquaintances to advance S-links and create better personas, I can increase my character's stats, I can take part-time jobs, or I can go dungeon crawling for money, XP, and to solve quests. The actual structure of the game comes through the narrative. Since the game takes place over the period of multiple months, the main story events are set to happen on specific dates, and I only get access to those free afternoon and evening time slots on days where the story doesn't progress. Then, usually after multiple days with story advancements, the next dungeon opens up, and the game gives a specific date as a deadline until I have to beat it. This is what makes Persona work. The fact that in between the main story events I only have a limited amount of days in which I get to raise my stats, advance my S-links, and still have to beat the entire current dungeon in time. From this point on, decision making and optimization start playing an important role, as the game heavily rewards me for using my limited time as productively as possible. There are a multitude of special rules to take advantage of. Studying during rainy days, for example, gives more knowledge gain than during sunny days. And on Sundays, the fruit juice stand at the subway station sells an expansive stat-enhancing kale drink, so I have to remember to come back every weekend and get one. In order to save time, I also need to focus on raising those S-links that I think will give me the best combat potential. Not only do I have to beat the dungeons within a specific time limit, I want to cut the amount of days I actually spend in dungeons as short as possible, given that when I visit one, my character will be too tired to do anything in the evening. So I have to choose which of my friends to hang out with in order to get the best combat bonuses, and that decision making is difficult considering that raising S-links is also connected to getting closer to a character. I might like Ichiko Oya and want to explore her character arc, but spending time with her seems like a waste given that other characters have way better S-link effects. All of these different rewards start enhancing each other. More money makes for better stat gain, which unlocks higher levels of S-links, which makes for faster dungeon crawling, which makes for more free time to get even more money, better stats, higher S-links, equipment, and so on. I begin to cram as many activities into my schedule as the game allows. I start planning around all these special rules to achieve the biggest possible benefits per day. I get ecstatic on days where the game lets me grab a seat in the subway on the way to school, as it creates an extra little time slot in which I get to chip away at one of the multiple books I bought. I'd say that was an efficient use of our time, says Morgana whenever this happens, and that is when Persona becomes more than just a fun JRPG about maximizing stats to me. That is when it becomes real, and it starts mirroring aspects of my life that I am confronted with on a daily basis. The struggle of dealing with limited time. As I grow older, and especially ever since I started this channel and began taking myself somewhat serious as a quote-unquote critic of games, I value my free time more and more, and I suspect I am not alone in that. I want to play all the games that come out during the year. After all, I want my Game of the Year videos to be somewhat representative. I want to have informed opinions. I want to learn how this industry works. I want to read more articles on game design. I want to make more videos. And there are so many games I still haven't played, so many classics I missed out on, so many genres I haven't gotten into yet, even though I probably would. Games alone, even without making videos on any of them, could take up my undivided attention every day for the rest of my days. Given that I actually want to finish a lot of titles and upload new videos to my channel on a reasonable schedule, it is my responsibility to allocate whatever free time I can muster into them. And of course, that is only a fucking YouTube channel. That is not even including having a job, working out regularly, having a social life, watching movies, TV shows, playing an instrument, and whatever else I might actually want to get into. Over the past 5 years, this issue of not having enough time has occupied my thoughts on a daily basis. It has influenced my behavior in many ways, and Persona is the game that makes me realize how bad it's gotten. Because the same rules apply, a limited amount of given time clashes with a seemingly unlimited amount of possible ways to spend it on. Too often, a strategic decision in Persona's day-to-day routine reminds me that I follow a distressingly similar logic in managing my personal life. I have picked up certain games over others, for example, not necessarily because I liked them, but because they were new and playing through them could have resulted in a relevant video idea. I've started working with an unwritten schedule in my mind, looking up which titles will release in the upcoming months and planning from when to when I should be occupied playing them to avoid any overlap. What's even more difficult is to indulge myself and spend time on games that might be less relevant or fruitful for the channel. I love competitive games, but for the past few years I've had nagging thoughts that booting up a fighting game for only 1 or 2 hours is a waste of time. Any competitive title demands a huge time commitment if you want to become even remotely competent at it, and that time commitment is hard to fulfill when there are so many other games to get through. I'd love to join my group of friends who play Overwatch every other evening, but I know full well that I don't want to invest as many hours into just that one game as they do. At the same time, I know it would bother me to not perform on the level of my friends while playing with them. I'd have to invest more time into practicing, which I don't want to do, so I end up not playing with them at all. Then there are old games I'd love to check out. Classics I missed out on, like Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines and the original Deus Ex. Gigantic games that would take tens of hours to get through, but would anyone care if I made a video on my experience with them? Would I even get a good script idea if I played them? Is the time investment worth the risk? I also noticed the relentless optimization that guides my decision making in Persona taking hold of my behavior. Using my commute to get some reading or writing done is normal, but there are more, smaller, sometimes only minute-long gaps in my daily activities that I've learned to fill by throwing on a video on YouTube or tuning into a gaming or politics podcast. Even the smallest trips to the kitchen or the goddamn baker across the street are filled with some form of discussion in my ear, trying to chip away at the contingent of podcasts and YouTube pundits I usually go through every week. Ever since picking up this habit, I've become completely averse to inaction and silence, as they represent opportunities that could be filled with reading, playing, writing, or listening to something, preferably 2 things at once, and even if it's just for a few minutes. That was an efficient use of your time, says Morgana, and the efficient use of my time is what has been driving me these past years, often haunting me as well. Ever so often the quiet, stressful realization sets in that I will never have enough time to explore even this one hobby of mine as much as I want to. All I can do is try every day to get as close as is possible and responsible without letting other aspects of my life suffer. It is this feeling that Persona 5's gameplay captivates for me. Nearing the end of the deadline and hoping I've used my day smartly enough to survive the final boss fights. That encapsulation of the daily struggle with time is what makes the routine in these games feel so much more real to me than most other life simulations. And judging from the articles written on the series, I can only assume that it evokes similar feelings in many other people. Bouken, signing out. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, then please feel free to like and subscribe. And in other news, I started a podcast recently with a bunch of my Limited Lives buddies. So if you ever want to listen to my more rambly and less eloquent self, then you can find the links to that in the description down below. Otherwise, I hope to see you on my next video, and until then, bye bye.